A long-dead character's tragic demise was finally undone recently in the X-books, as the one and only Birdy finally made her grand return. A bit of a deep cut, Birdy wasn't so much a staple of the 90s, as she was just known for being Sabretooth's side chick for a while. She didn't make a ton of appearances, but if you read Sabretooth's Mini-Series circa 1993-ish, then you definitely saw her clucking around by his side. For those of us who do remember her, it's very heartwarming to see Birdy resurrected and put to good use in the pages of Marauders and Legion of X. Technically, when she died, she would have been classified as a villain because she was like an assassin for hire, but it's really up to debate if she was ever truly evil deep down, or if that was just the company she kept. Birdy was never a showstopper of a character, and she's not super powerful, which is something I like because so many mutants are like nigh omnipotent these days. But in the few books that she did appear in, she had enough of a unique look and sassy demeanor to leave an impression on readers to make this return of hers pretty exciting. She also made enough of an impression to make it into not one, but two video games in the 90s, X-Men vs. Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom 2. She was not a playable character, but she was an assist character for Sabretooth who could be called upon to fire her big gun at the opponents. I mean, for Birdy to make it into two video games after only having had 6 comic book appearances total, that has gotta say something about her impact as a character.
Birdy!
I'm surprised she didn't get a Toy Biz action figure out of it too, since they were just handing out toy deals to anybody in the 90s. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to give you a brief little rundown of Birdy's character history, talk about her powers, weapons, and her renowned glow effect, and then give an update on just what she's been up to nowadays after having been resurrected. Birdy's comic book history has been tied to Sabretooth since her very debut. In the Maverick one-shot comic book In the Shadow of Death, we learned that in her life before being Sabretooth's associate, she was some sort of operative for what must have been a secret service agency, and that she only crossed paths with Sabretooth after she was sent in to do a hit on him while he was in Hong Kong killing some triad bosses. She tried to take him out with her telepathy, but it didn't have much effect other than to provoke his ire, and he shifted gears from killing the triad bosses to attacking her. Maverick says that no one knows exactly what kind of torture he subjected her to there, but that ever since her botched hit job, she became unequivocally attached to him. From there, she basically became his therapist and his booking agent. She would use her calming psi powers to help quell his murderous rages and some sort of psychic therapy technique called the glow, and she would also manage his calendar and coordinate with new clients who wanted to hire him to do a kill job. When Sabretooth was hired by Matsuo Tsurayaba to find and kill Wolverine in X-Men number 6, Birdy accompanied him and helped to telepathically jam Maverick's surveillance technology after she realized that they were being spied upon. She didn't accompany Sabretooth on the actual mission of hunting down Wolverine, as a brainwashed Psylocke was Sabretooth's Girl Friday for that mission instead, but that doesn't mean that Birdy was always regulated to the sidelines when he had a job to do. X-Men Legends numbers 8 and 9 gave us a story from the past where Birdy and Sabretooth were hired to kidnap some young mutants from a bunch of other hired people who were also kidnapping the young mutants. People like Omega Red, Lady Deathstrike, and The Hand. Of course, Wolverine and Jubilee ended up getting caught up in the middle of it all as they tried to rescue these young mutants from all of their would-be kidnappers. Before it was known that Birdy and Sabretooth were in the mix here, Omega Red had the X-Men on the ropes, and just when it looked like he was going to be victorious in killing them, Birdy appeared and blasted him with her big plasma cannon, knocking him out. Birdy stood guard with Jubilee and Wolverine in her crosshairs while Sabretooth grabbed the mutant kids, but the Hand took up arms next and they knocked both Wolverine and Sabretooth out with some plasma guns of their own. Birdy then opened fire on the Hand and obliterated their weapons, and it looked like she'd have to throw down with Lady Deathstrike too, but the head honcho of the entire kidnapping operation demanded a strategic retreat, so she and Lady D smoke bombed their way out of there along with the kidnapped kids. Birdy and Jubilee tended to their fallen boys, and then Birdy commandeered a jet to fly them all out to a ship where the kidnapped kids were now being held. There, they ran afoul of Omega Red and Lady Deathstrike yet again, and everyone fought until eventually the kidnapped kids just teleported their own ways out of there and saved everyone the hassle of having to fight over them. Technically, this rendered the mission a total failure for Sabretooth and Birdy, since they were meant to retrieve the kids, but at the very least, it looked like Birdy made a friend out of Jubilee, which isn't surprising, because they both have that similar kind of Valley Girl, mall rat attitude. Birdy's biggest comic book moments were in the Sabretooth miniseries of the 90s. Here, Birdy really established herself as Sabretooth's main associate, and their relationship was explored in much greater detail. The series kicks off with Sabretooth returning to his mansion in Vancouver, only to see that it has been secretly infiltrated by a bunch of ninjas. They attack him, and he does a really admirable job of fending them off by himself, because there are a ton of them, but the tables really turn in his favor when Birdy shows up with her big plasma cannon and blows them all to smithereens. She informs him that she's been lining up all sorts of exciting assassin work for him, and then she proceeds to help him with his bath and massage out his muscles in preparation for the next gig. Here, we see that their relationship is very much a master-slave situation, and that even though Sabretooth needs Birdy in order to get his fix of the glow, that doesn't stop him from abusing her, nor from her threatening his life. As skilled as Birdy is, though, with her psi talents, she and he both know that she doesn't really have what it takes to actually kill him, so instead, she just hits him with a big whopping mess of her glow energy, which sends Sabretooth on a high, and Birdy gets to peek around his head a little bit. She meets a kid version of Sabretooth, and bless her heart for thinking that everyone has a good side, because she tries to comfort him and help him, and even though he lashes out and tries to attack her, Birdy's empathic nature nurtures the situation, and she actually manages to see a softer side of Sabretooth. It doesn't last long though, and in the waking world, the real Sabretooth has had enough of these mushy comforts, and he knocks Birdy out, having had his full of the glow, while she lays unconscious behind him. It's an interesting series of panels, because even though we see that Birdy clearly hates him and that he clearly abuses her, it doesn't stop her from trying to help him on the psychic plane when she sees that there's still sides of Sabretooth that are good and decent. She threatens to give him an aneurysm, but in the end, she just gives him a hug, which is truly indicative of just what kind of a character Birdy really is. Later that night, Birdy deactivates the mansion's alarms and directs a strike team to Sabretooth's bedroom, revealing that she has finally betrayed him. The plan goes awry though, and Sabretooth takes out the assault team while Birdy tries to make a getaway. He reactivates the mansion's security systems, meaning all the booby traps now come back online and are killing the assault team here and there and everywhere, but Birdy knows all the tricks and traps, so she's able to dodge them all and make it out of the mansion unhurt while the assault team finally bags and tags Sabretooth. Outside, Sabretooth threatens Birdy, saying that he's gonna get her, and she knows he means it, but for now, it looks like she finally got her life back. Her freedom doesn't last very long though, because Sabretooth soon makes good on his promise, and after he's released from those who captured him, he breaks back into his mansion with full intention of exacting revenge on Birdy for having sold him out. Birdy makes a getaway in one of Sabretooth's cars, so Sabretooth goes after her on his motorbike, and a grand high-speed chase ensues. Birdy gets real too fast, too furious with him, and pulls a Yui that runs him over in the process, which of course is just what he wanted, as it gets him into the car with her. They smash through a freeway rail and start to plummet down into oncoming traffic, but Sabretooth forces her to give him the glow, and soon she is reunited with the friendly kid Sabretooth that lives inside of his head, and she learns what happened to him when the strike team took him away. Turns out they implanted a time bomb into his chest and demanded that he assassinate Mystique, or else they'll detonate it and kill him. Birdy and Sabretooth survive the plummet down into traffic, and he tells her that he has accepted the mission, so the two of them have work to do, and that he'll wait to kill her until later. Birdy helps run Sabretooth's reconnaissance mission here while he tracks Mystique in Paris, and she stays nearby, informing him of her whereabouts as she runs away from him. Sabretooth eventually catches up to Mystique, and he's surprised to see Wolverine in town as well, but instead of offing them both right away, the three of them decide, hey, let's all catch up over dinner and drinks, and Birdy comes along as well. While Birdy enjoys the taste of gay Paris while the others reminisce and chat, Wolverine finally has enough, and he threatens to kill Sabretooth right then and there. Birdy pulls out a grenade, threatening to kill everybody, but Wolvie uses his claws as a safety pin for it while the French cops come in to see what all the hoopla about. Birdy uses her telepathic powers to mask everyone from their perception, and Mystique drops a bomb of her own by telling Sabretooth that the two of them have a son together. Before any more details can be revealed though, Mystique takes the grenade from Wolverine Wolverine and detonates it, while Sabretooth and Birdy make their escape with a new mission in mind to let Mystique live, and instead hunt down the people who Birdy sold him out to in the first place in order to get the time bomb out of his chest. They charter a plane back to America, and Birdy takes another stroll inside Sabretooth's noggin, where she reviews the footage of the time when he was kidnapped, and her sleek sleuthing discovers that the secret headquarters they're headed to is in New York. There, the two of them steal a bus and smash their way into the headquarters, where the lobby, of course, is full of ninjas. It becomes a total bloodbath, and Birdy opens fire on them while Sabretooth slices and dices. Soon afterwards, the two of them take a breather and decide to climb the building from the outside in order to have the element of surprise. They break back into the building, where more guards and ninjas are still waiting for them. Birdy opens fire again and takes them out, both with a combination of her plasma cannon as well as some focused mind blasting. In the chaos, Sabretooth learns that the mutant-hating Graydon Creed is the one behind everything, and Birdy sends Sabretooth inside Graydon's mind to get some answers. But it's not what he was hoping to find out, as he discovers that Graydon is the son that Mystique told him about. Oh, the soap opera. Sabretooth is disgusted and goes to kill him, but Birdy stops him, hoping that Sabretooth will feel some pang of fatherly connection to him. It doesn't do her any favors though, as in that brief moment of consideration, Graydon whips out a knife and stabs Birdy, killing her right then and there, going to hurt Sabretooth not through physical pain, but by removing the one person in the world who actually helped Sabretooth deal with his own homicidal urges. Sabretooth lets Graydon go, and though he doesn't mourn Birdy right away, it's clear that he finally recognizes just how much he did need her after all, as he leaves to go find someone who can replace her. That's the sad story of Birdy's life and death, but let's take a detour before we explore her resurrection to talk about her powers. Birdy was formally classified by Maverick as being an alpha-level telepath, and in a world full of omegas, seeing someone actively being called an alpha truly is a breath of fresh air. Along with the standard mind blasts and digging around people's minds routine, Birdy's psi powers also gave her sensory perception manipulation, like when she shielded the French copses from being able to see them all, and she's got some sort of way to jam electronic signals, like when she shielded herself and Sabretooth from Maverick's surveillance camera. She only ever did that trick the one time though, so I don't know if it was her telepathic powers or maybe it was just some sort of device that she used. Even if that's not an actual mutant power of hers, she is a tech whiz, so that's still a pretty handy dandy talent to have. She has helped Sabretooth bypass security systems in order to break into buildings, and she seems to just know her general way around a circuit board. Technology of all sorts seems to really be her jam, including weaponry, as she famously carried around a giant plasma cannon gun, which was her main method of attack when she was in battle. The aspect of Birdy that makes her stand out from her other telepath peers, though, was the glow. This is a calming psychic technique that her empathic nature could manifest within people, making them feel relaxed and secure, and it's why Sabretooth kept her around, because she could keep his homicidal urges in check. Without Birdy, Sabretooth went on a bit of a murderous rampage until he finally tried to seek out a replacement for her. This, of course, brought him to the most powerful mind on the planet, Professor Xavier. Sabretooth tried to force Xavier's hand into giving him the glow, so the two of them scuffled for a bit, with Xavier eventually agreeing to take a little tour inside of his mind. There, he saw the same young Sabretooth kid that Birdy had befriended before, but unlike Birdy, Xavier wasn't here to give him temporary sympathy. Instead, he decided to help Sabretooth for the long term by letting him stay at the mansion in hopes of fully rehabilitating him. I mean, if he can do it for Wolverine, why couldn't he do it for Sabretooth? Birdy's glow effect was very much like a drug for Sabretooth, so during his time as the X-Men's guest/prisoner, he exhibited symptoms that were very similar to a drug withdrawal and would need his occasional fix. I gather that Professor X was his usual drug dealer in this endeavor, as one time they say he was too busy to do it, so they sent in Psylocke instead, but Sabretooth quickly threw her away, claiming that she didn't have the psychic snuff of what it takes to give him what he needs. In fact, he kept begging for Jean Grey to be his Birdy replacement, but Jean was disgusted with the sheer fact that Sabretooth was even being housed in the mansion, so she outright refused to ever give him the glow. She claimed that Birdy only ever gave him the glow because he threatened her life, which is true, Sabretooth did, but now he was in no position to be threatening anybody, so Jean said she'd withhold the glow from him with the secret hope that he'd maybe be able to actually rehabilitate himself without it. Her withholding only lasted for so long though, and eventually she and Professor X had to strike a deal with Sabretooth after Jubilee was kidnapped by Caliban and taken down into the Morlock tunnels. Caliban was angry that the X-Men were housing one of the marauders that had slaughtered the Morlocks during the Mutant Massacre, and he was demanding that they give him Sabretooth in exchange for Jubilee. Sabretooth agreed to help get Jubilee back, but only under one condition, that Jean Grey give him a fix of the glow. With Jubilee's life at stake, Jean finally acquiesced and finally gave Sabretooth what he'd been wanting from her, but she decided to really pile it on and let him have it. She lamented the decision because she had seen Sabretooth actually making progress, so she really set to overdose him here by giving him too much glow, hopefully making the glow seem more of a negative to him than a positive. Jean never administered the glow to him again after this, and it looked like Sabretooth had really turned over a new leaf after Wolverine popped his claw through his brain, reducing him to nothing more than a mindless pup. Not everyone was buying that puppy routine though, including not Gambit, who showed him holograms of all the people that Sabretooth had murdered or gotten killed, and there was our fair Birdy herself as one of them. To his credit, Sabretooth looked genuinely happy to see Birdy's face, but it's hard to trust a psychopath like Victor Creed, and that's unfortunately something that Boom Boom had to find out the hard way. X-Force was staying at the mansion for a bit, and Tabitha had befriended Sabretooth, kind of treating him as like a pet or something by giving him milk at night and stuff, until she eventually realized that he had been lying to her about his current state. He wasn't actually a born-again pup. He was just manipulating her for this very moment when he could provoke her just enough so that she would unintentionally bust him out of his restraints with her powers. Like an amateur, Tabby totally followed the script to a T, and if it hadn't been for Psylocke, who came flying in to save her ass, Tabitha would surely have been dead moments later. Betsy and Sabretooth fought while Tabitha called for help, and it looked like Sabes was going to win until Psylocke manifested her psychic knife and prepared to give him the glow in an effort to calm him down so that she could escape. Unfortunately, ever since that claw pop by Wolverine, the glow ceased doing its trick to curb Sabretooth's homicidal urges, so her psychic knife did diddly squat, and Betsy definitely paid the price. This encounter was, I think, the final time the glow was referenced for Sabretooth, as he escaped the X-Mansion after this and has never really sought the same psychic therapy since. I think that holographic projection by Gambit was the last time Birdy was seen or heard or even really mentioned in the X-Comics until recently in the Krakoa era. In the most recent Sabretooth Mini-Series, while Sabes is trapped in the pit and contemplating his life and the choices he's made and plotting his escape, he takes a trip down memory lane in Sabretooth issue number 4 and goes back into the time of his very first miniseries from the 90s. There, he's back at his Vancouver mansion, which is now looking mighty decrepit and abandoned. He sees the tub where Birdy massaged him, and the car that she escaped in while she was running away from him, and he stumbles upon one of her old guns that has been splattered with blood. Even though he never calls out Birdy by name, it's clear that that's who he was looking for here in a moment of needing comfort, because he reaches down by the gun and pulls up a dead bird, which, of course, is symbolic of Birdy herself. He howls in despair, which really does go to show that he cared for Birdy, or at least cared for her in a way that Sabretooth knows how to care, meaning really just that he needed her. This was the first real mention we had of Birdy in a long time, and when I saw it, I gasped because clearly I thought, well, that can only mean one thing. Her time in the resurrection queue has gotta be happening. In Sabretooth number 5, my suspicions were proven true by everyone's favorite blind precog, as Destiny confirmed to Mystique that Birdy would indeed be resurrected, but that she would no longer be associated with Sabretooth. Something about what they were saying sounded ominous though, almost as though Birdy would have a higher calling here, like she was needed for Mystique and Destiny's plans. Mystique asks Destiny if she's sure that they need the 5 to resurrect Birdy, And although Destiny doesn't say that she's important to their plans or anything, she does confirm that Birdy will live again, so I guess the jury is out on if Birdy will have a larger role to play in the eventual downfall of Krakoa or not. But for now at least, she has formally been resurrected, and she's keeping herself quite busy amongst the various X books. Her first reappearance since Resurrection was in Legion of X #3. Here, she debuted in her new role as a counselor, putting her empathic traits to good use as she helps to readjust mutants who have been through traumatic experiences. She was tasked by Nightcrawler to help the mutants who have had their bodies taken over by the Skinjacker, and she's seen working with Dust and Somnos to give Polly some comfort over his dead wife, Lisa. Her counseling duties were also used within a field operation when a makeshift team tracked down the wayward Nature Girl and her extremist X-Men Green team in X-Men Unlimited number 44. Nature Girl was done letting humans destroy the Earth, and she had set an oil rig on fire with all the human workers trapped on it. While most of the team was there to safely contain the inferno before it could grow, Birdy was there specifically to use her calming glow telepathy to ease the humans' experience and keep them from having panic attacks. She also used her telepathy to communicate with a recently revived human-plant hybrid guy, where they learned about how the fire started, and she saw the hate in Nature Girl's eyes, which was a level of hate she said she hadn't seen since Sabretooth, which just goes to show how far Nature Girl has fallen from the dream. Probably Birdy's biggest role yet since being resurrected was in Marauders issue number 6, where the entire issue is basically an ode to her. The team has just returned from its outer space Shi'ar adventure, just in time to get embroiled in the Celestials' Judgment Day business. At the insistence of Aurora, everyone on the team pays a visit to Birdy so that she can help them sort through whatever issues might be psychologically plaguing them while they contend with the Celestials' individual judgments of them all. She first chats with Bishop, who takes her to a psychic bar, where he's catching up with his old XSE teammates Randall and Malcolm. Bishop feels guilt for not having been able to resurrect them since he hasn't made the world worthy of them yet, but to me, that's just a cheesy movie line, and the real reason that they can't be resurrected is because they're technically still yet to be born in this timeline. Birdy visits Aurora next, where she and her many personalities are contending with her old Alpha Flight foe, Headlock, who wants her to justify her existence. But she makes quick work of him and shows Birdy that she's at ease with all of herself, regardless of what other people think of her. Tempo is next, and hers is one of the more interesting sessions because she reveals some hidden truths about her old teammate Sumo. Tempo's power has received a bit of a retcon lately, where before she could just slow down and speed up time, now she can actually travel through it. In this session with Birdy, Tempo reveals that she and Sumo once did that after a eugenics kill team killed both the MLF and X-Force. Tempo and Sumo went back in time so that Sumo could kill the eugenics team before they hit their raid, effectively rewriting history and saving both the Mutant Liberation Front and X-Force from their fates. Only Tempo remembered what happened though, so the next time X-Force rallied against the MLF, Cable shot Sumo as the enemy he knew him to be and killed him dead. Surely this is building up to some sort of resurrection and reunion for Tempo and Sumo, which is something that I welcome wholeheartedly, as Tempo has not really been seen with any of her old MLF teammates, and there are some dynamics there that I am dying to see. Birdy's next patient is Psylocke, and she sees Quanon kill Sinister and reunite with the daughter that she'll never get to see again. Psylocke's struggle is still an identity-facing one, and the Celestial asks her if she's the Quanon she was before the body swap, or if she's the Quanon she has become since leading the Hellions. Somnus' session is also one about identity, where an image of Northstar chides him for having cowardly stayed in the closet for so many years when he should have been an out and proud gay role model, whereas Deken's session was coming to terms with all of the different lives he has had to live, like that of an assassin, friend, and lover, and how he just doesn't care what anyone's judgment of him is anymore. In the end, it looks like Birdy's sessions helped all of the Marauders, and everyone says they feel better without the weight of the world's judgment on them now. One of the members she did not get a chance to have a therapy session with, though, was Cassandra Nova, which is a true shame, because that's the real grit of what we're here to witness, and even Birdy herself laments the missed opportunity, though she's probably better off having stayed far away from Cassandra Nova's noggin as possible. And so that's it for Birdy. She's a super minor character, but one who certainly left a mark in her own unique way, and it looks like Marvel is really giving her a moment right now and having her use her powers in very unique ways that are more constructive instead of destructive. From the beginning, it was clear that Birdy had a lot of heart, and even though I love watching her throw down with her giant plasma cannon gun, this new role of counselor is probably a much more comfortable change of pace for her. Please let me know if you have any thoughts about Birdy or how you think she should be used in future storylines, and be sure to bum around my channel for more videos like this one. I want to thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me today, and be sure to come back again soon for more great X-Mentations.